Hello and welcome to the Meeple Mentor YouTube channel. I'm Jared, and with me is Holly. And today we are doing our review of Starship Interstellar, which is a hefty game. And I've done the unboxing video, so you can check that out on the channel to see all the inside components and whatnot. But we're going to be talking about how it plays, what we think of it, is it worth it? Look, there's a lot to it. And if you've seen the unboxing, you know this is heavy. There's a lot of components. There's a lot of cubes going on in here. And it's 1 to 4 players. You have your own box that you assemble to have your own pieces in because there's so much stuff that you need for this game.
It's cool.
Yeah, you're going to need several different types of buildings, several different types of like ships that you have. You've got scientist people that are used in 2 different ways in the game. And you've also got action tokens. So the majority of this game is done through choosing actions from your available action tokens. And there's the 3 phases of a round. The first phase, you can do essentially side A of your action tokens. And then in the next phase, you flip them over and you get to do side B of those actions. So a different set of possibilities. In side A, or the first phase, the action on the token is very specific, and so you have to do whatever it says, like this is the travel action, or this is the gather materials from the sun action. Whereas the B sides of these have all 4 actions of the B phase can be done with any of these tokens, but one of those actions is depicted larger, and if you use that token to take that action, you get a little bit of a benefit, usually boosting your reputation or even points. There's a lot of tracks on this game to move up on. There's the victory point track, which is what do they call it in this game?
Reputation?
No, reputation is reputation, but I can't remember what they call it. But you've got a victory point track, and you're going to be rounding this thing. So we had scores in the high 200s to almost 300. And if you're probably better than we are, you're going to probably get more than 300. You've got areas on the board for every planet in the solar system that you can visit. So except Earth, because Earth you don't have to populate Earth. You've got places to put your buildings. You've got a track on the upper right that you can move your satellite that is trying to explore out into deep space to try to find this new habitable planet. So what's going on in this game? Earth is in danger of being destroyed. Our sun, as we know it, is exploding and pulling death and destruction with it. So, Mercury's first, then Venus is going to explode. And then if Earth explodes, game over, and count up points. But there's another way to trigger the game, but that's like the default. So there's that track as well, just cycling, which planets get blown up.
Our experience, it doesn't seem to move too fast.
Right.
So that I think the one time it did trigger the end of the game, we triggered the end of the game otherwise at the same time.
And it's one of those things where there's one action in the game that if players do a lot, i.e. pulling these cubes from the sun, bag, that's what can force the track to move faster than
we stayed away from that a lot.
In our game, we didn't really engage in that action too much because it was easier to get resources other places, or it wasn't too bad to get what we needed without, endangering Earth more so than the game already has us against. So while Earth is having this impending doom, the governments of Earth have come together to basically build a spaceship that is going to take select number of population from Earth to a new planet. And so you've got a satellite, the government satellite that's going out. You have your own satellites that are going out to find this distant planet that's habitable. And meanwhile, we're going back and forth from Earth using our travel ships to collect resources and continue to build the Starship Interstellar. And that's what they call the ship.
And you essentially mine the planets of the solar system for your resources.
Exactly. It's essentially kind of a 4X game in the sense of like
Yeah.
exploring, exterminate. Like there's no combat, so that part of it's not there.
Yeah.
But you go out, you mine, you come back, you build. Um, so if or Venus is about to explode, you have to kind of time when you're going to go back and pick up your stuff if you want to save it and rebuild somewhere else. So this is all about kind of effectively gaining technologies that you need in order to get better buildings for mining or for collecting or what have you, and then essentially transporting it with enough fuel on your one, travelable ship. Um, to and from Earth or from Earth to other places is fine, but every time you stop somewhere new, you have to kind of lay a new base there. So one of the cool aspects of this game, as far as the actions, is if you choose an action token, some of them have a infinity symbol, which means that next turn, if it's still the topmost action token on your stack of actions, you can keep doing that action until you choose a different action. But in the case of the travel, while you can keep traveling, as soon as you kind of not hibernate, but like inhabit or place a base on a new planet, you are forced to take one of the production tokens of that planet, which does get added immediately to the top of your action stack.
Thus stopping your ability to travel.
Which prevents your travel and stops at that round. Because again, unless you've somehow earned an extra action token that gives you an extra way to travel,
which is possible,
you only start with one travel. So there are some kind of, you have to figure out what you want to do in what order. But the other cool thing I like about this game is whenever you decide to pass on any of those two phases, you get to look at how many unused action tokens you have and use your pass token and notch it to the left as many as you have left over. And once that round has fully passed out, you are going to collect some extra resources and benefits based on how far that token has moved. And in addition to those extra tokens set aside, every time it would come back to your turn, you get to notch it again. So if you pass early enough, you could be spending this pass token quite a few times to get quite a few very good or higher value resources.
Options.
More options on how to do stuff. And you can use those in the next phase very easily. I think that's really cool, and
I enjoy that too.
I haven't seen it done that well, or maybe that effectively in a game before. So that's a huge plus on game design here for not only which actions to take, what order to take them, but actually when to pass so that you can get the resources hopefully that you want. I mean, there's a lot of thinking in this game to really max out your strategy.
Lots of resource management.
I will say if you are analysis paralysis prone or AP prone, this is going to be a tough one. You might have a hard time like taking faster turns on this just because so much of your decisions impact every other decision in the round.
So I think that I don't think it's too busy on the tracks.
Okay.
It's a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So it's like worth it to take in. I'm not sure that I entirely agree on the analysis paralysis thing.
Really?
I feel like I'm bad for AP sometimes. And I don't think I really hit that with this, except for that one part where we were like, oh, we have to have fuel to get back to Earth.
Yeah.
But other than that, that was a misunderstanding in the rules. I think you taught it really well. That might have had something to do with it. But...
Yeah, there was a moment in our first play where we both had this realization that once the game ends, we all have to end up paying the fuel required to get our ship back to Earth, regardless of where we are. It doesn't just end.
Oops.
And in my case, I had the fuel needed, so I was fine, but she didn't because we didn't realize at the time that she'd also need that.
We
fuel.
Happened to check the rules 2 turns before the game is over.
And I was like,
uh-oh.
We're gonna have to play again to get a feel for how that's gonna affect our score and everything. So we did play a couple times. But yes, if you're new to playing the game, here's a quick tip: make sure you have enough fuel to get back to Earth every time.
Make sure that you're checking off what tracks you're supposed to be moving up. That's another one.
That's a good point. And there are a lot of different, like, bonus tracks, I guess you might call them, like, because there's the reputation track, which as you do certain things that improve your reputation, you keep moving it, and eventually you get to the next row, to the next row, to the next row, and every one of the third phases, you score your points on the row you're at. But if you haven't been keeping track of your reputation properly, you're going to be missing out on a lot of points.
And the benefits are super helpful
Yes.
when you get them.
Yes.
So it's very important.
There's another one where it involves adding meeples or a representative population token, to the Starship Interstellar. And when you do that, you go up on another track, and every space you move on that track gives you something helpful.
I think you go up on 2 separate tracks with that. You do.
You go up on reputation.
Yes, and then the other one.
The leader of the people or whatever. And those tracks, the other one, like, those have those immediate benefits, like, moving your satellite forward or
getting a scientist.
Gaining a scientist. And so everything in this you have to earn. Like, there's a lot of components, but you have to earn them or unlock them throughout the game. And you're always going to need scientists.
Yes.
They're useful in a lot of ways. The first main reason that you use them is to unlock the technologies for different abilities or for more buildings to be able to place onto planets.
Or for your buildings to be stronger.
Yes. The other reason involves Phase B, when you can place them out on the world government track, and basically you can put one on each row, and whoever's is kind of furthest left kind of gets to be the governor, which is a huge benefit because in that third phase, whoever's governor gets to collect a whole bunch of points based on a series of things that happen.
I mean, sure, that part is cool, but I really like that you can place it on I don't care about going first if I get all 4 of those benefits.
Exactly. It has this cool, where do you want to place it on that row mechanism, because if you place it further right, you get more benefits that are printed on the chart. But if you place it further left, you're more guaranteed to be the governor for the end of that round.
So you have to weigh the options. Do I want benefits or do I want to be first and governor?
Right. So that's also a really good decision point. And that's what I mean. There's just a lot going on in this. A lot of tracks to keep up with, but also to be aware of as you're playing.
It's super fun though.
It's a lot of fun. We enjoyed it a lot. And I know it's a heavy game and it's probably 2.5, 3 hours to play. And it's going to have a long teach.
I'm not going to lie. It was daunting to learn.
It's going to have a long teach.
But it was worth it.
But it is a lot of fun. And if you like sci-fi and space adventures and the quality of production on this game is very high.
It's great.
And the gameplay just works.
Ships that you fly around and stuff.
One thing we didn't even mention is that it simulates the movement of the planets.
Yes.
And that's another thing that this game does that a lot of space games don't in regards to travel, is that they've sectioned the solar system into 4 quadrants, and then they've got the orbits of every planet, and at the end of the third phase of the round, every planet moves. And it affects distance. It affects how much fuel you're going to have to pay. It's brilliantly done in a very simple way. And I say simple with, a caveat that this is a complicated game. But I like that it uses, the realistic depiction of where the planets might be after a cycle or whatever. I don't know exactly how long a day or a round lasts. Thematically, but the movement of the planets definitely affects your planning as to, okay, if it moves, then it's either going to be closer or further from where I'm at now. So I have to think about how much fuel that I need to load up on. Your fuel only really you get from Earth, so you can't go to Mars and expect to fill up. There's no gas stations anywhere, So that's a big aspect of this, is collecting the fuel, going back to Earth, putting it all on your ship, and then moving on. So there's a lot to love here. There's a lot of cool little decisions to make. And the only kind of caveat I would say, other than that it's just a long, heavy game, if that's not your thing, you're not going to like it. But a caveat is sometimes if you forget to move on a track when you're supposed to move on a track, you do an action and then after you do that action, you gain a perk or you move this up. If you forget to do that, you're now playing at a handicap because maybe you should have had a scientist earlier, or maybe you should have had your satellite further along, and you would have gotten a benefit before someone else.
I cannot overstate the importance of keeping track of those tracks.
Exactly. It's all about the tracks. So that is, the hardest part is just keeping up with it and making sure you don't miss one that you're supposed to earn when you do an action. Choosing the actions and doing the actions aren't very complicated, but remembering what actions move you on what tracks and then actually like making sure you do that and getting those benefits, that's where if you mess up, you can kind of find yourself falling behind just incidentally because you should have more stuff or you should have more ability to do things than you currently have.
It really does affect.
Yeah.
It really, if you want it to flow correctly, you've got to pay attention to those tracks.
So I've really enjoyed it. I think it's a lot of fun. If you like sci-fi, if you like heavy games, if you like combos or planning out turns and seeing how you can maximize efficient actions and things like that, it's all there. It's all there for you. I think it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it.
Another thing is like you really don't go head to head at all. You just it's kind of stay in your own lane deal.
It's true. It's there's not a lot of other player involvement, I guess, because like every planet has room for every player to be there, and it's a luck of the draw as to like what resources you get to mine versus what resources another player gets to mine, because that's the token that you draw. But the board will show you what like the odds of getting certain resources are of that planet.
I think really the biggest player interaction, so to speak, would be the government track and
passing.
No, yes, passing, but not what I was thinking of. The building where you build the tiles and you move them down, because there were several times where you got to one that I wanted first.
Yeah, because one of the things that you're doing in the game is building the Starship Interstellar, which involves paying certain resources on various like cardboard chits, and then you get points, and then they get added to a card, and then that card, once it fills, it becomes part of the ship. But like she's saying, if you were planning to spend a certain combination of resources on one particular available to spend, machine or whatever it's called, and someone else does it and builds it first, now you're like, well, I have to pivot and see what else I can build with what I have. So that is somewhat of a race.
Do I want to build it all now?
Right, yeah. Should I save these resources for something else or do something else with it? Or there's a lot of ways to use resources in this game.
Yes, that's why I say it's very heavy on resource management.
Yeah, in fact, you've got...
I would say that would be like the main focus of the game, honestly.
Yeah, not just the fuel, but like the 5 different colors of resources, which they could be like anything you want them to be, but they're just values of 1 through 5, And there is a market in this game where you can buy and sell various color resources.
I was thinking of the market at the same time.
Yeah. So there's a lot in this. I think it's really cool, and it really works well together. I mean, the teach does take a little while to get through and to like, understand how it plays out. But I think once everybody gets a hold of what's going on in the game, it plays really well.
It does.
And it can be a lot of fun. So I think, both collectively recommend with 2 thumbs up the Starship Interstellar from Pendragon Games, so definitely pick it up. It's awesome.
Yeah, especially if you're an astronomy nerd.
Oh yeah, if you like science and space and all that kind of stuff, you got to try this.
It's a lot of fun.
It's good stuff. So thanks for watching our review and I guess overview of a little bit about this game, and don't forget to check out the unboxing to see more of the components and how big this board is. There's 2 boards that make up this game. You're gonna need a big table. But thanks for watching, and subscribe, and check out our other content when it comes out. And I've been Jared.
I'm Holly.
We'll see you in the next video. Bye.